So, hair inspired by the Oscars.
But did you watch the Oscars last night? I didn't, but I kept hearing about it on Facebook.
Say, what do you think?
Did you? You didn't watch it? Yeah, but I say I didn't, and I normally don't.
Never watch that stuff. Oh. Yeah, never. I don't even know who half those people are. So.
Yeah, and to this day I can't even tell you who won it. I know Will Smith won an Oscar, and I know. Did you ever watch that movie Child of Deaf Adults, Coda? I saw that movie and that won an Oscar, and that's all I know because
okay.
if there's anything important I would know. But I think what happened was that Chris Rock told a joke about, like, Jada Pinkett's head is shaved bald, and he told a joke about how she's the next G.I. Jane, but really she has alopecia. So Will Smith got mad that he told a joke about his wife's hair when she didn't deliberately shave her hair for a look. It's because she's losing hair as a medical condition.
Okay.
So, then when he went on the stage to get his award or do whatever, he hit him.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think I saw something about that. Yeah. I was like, huh?
Right.
But I don't know. I think being associated with G.I. Jane is kind of like, a good thing, a badass type thing, I would think. So I don't know if that's
but he thought it was a dig about the hair. I don't know what was going on, but he got mad at maybe they figured they're friends and he knew that it was a medical problem, not just a look. Like somebody might have gotten up there and thought, oh, she's just trying to do a fashionable look and have made a joke about it, but he actually knows it's a medical problem. She didn't choose to do that. Sort of like if somebody had chemo and lost their hair and then you said, oh, look, you're G.I. Jane. Well, no, I had chemo. So it's and the bigger thing about it is Chris Rock did a whole movie about good hair, like a whole thing about how African American women and their hair and all the things we do to straighten our hair and do stuff. I mean, like a whole 2-hour movie that I think he won awards for it. And then he's making fun of this chick's
I am
hair.
so out of the loop.
Right. Well, no,
I didn't even know Chris Rock did movies.
Yeah. Well, because he's an actor, but he produced a movie. It was like a documentary about basically hair in general, but mostly focusing on Black women and their hair. So then he told a joke about hair, and I'm like, he really knows how that is not going to fly to tell a joke about hair.
Right.
But at the end of the day, because of what I do, menopause, nobody's hair gets better in menopause. Nobody's like, and then my hair is great now that I'm gone through the change. I mean, it's usually like it's a big deal that their hair gets worse. And a lot of women coming to me, not because of hot flashes or any medical problem, but because their hair's falling out. That's like a big thing about, hair falling out and trying to keep it when it wants to fall out. So, I mean, that's like half my day is hair. So I was like, oh yeah, it's a good day to focus on hair because there are so many things that go into it, like just even nutrition and vitamins and, it's not necessarily genetic that we all lose hair at 50. There's other factors. No matter what our genes say, most of us don't stay bald our whole life. So it's not really a gene. It's other things that influence the gene if you do have a genetic. So there's just a lot of reasons that people lose hair. But anyway, she has a real reason. And then of course there was a joke about it, which is not in good taste.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's interesting with the Hollywood group. I think they should just be open to jokes about anything, anytime, just because they're on the stage, but
but not when you have but not if you just had chemo or
well, no, I
lost it. No, I'm just saying but she didn't have chemo, but I'm saying that there's a circumstance and especially if someone's in the know potential, then it's a different thing than if someone didn't know and put their foot in their mouth.
Well, I would think that would be not a negative joke though. I'm like, it's like, okay, so I lost my hair, but I'm like G.I. Jane. And I don't know. The only thing I think of G.I. Jane is she was like hardcore, like bad to the bone, very strong, so that's all I think. So I'm like, that's not really a bad joke. I would take that joke if I didn't have any hair. I'm like, associate me with that versus some person that's very sickly and struggling because I've got some kind of disease or medical condition that's causing me to lose my hair. So I don't know. I guess it's just depends on where you look at it. But what did you say? He hit him. I think I heard that he hit him.
Slapped him. He slapped him. Really? And it might be, he wants to protect his wife. It's a whole lot of other things, but still, I mean, like you said, it was triggered by the joke. And I don't know if they have
Right,
usually
right.
beef between them or if they normally don't have beef, but I do know, like, since they're in the same
I
crowd,
know.
I think he was in a position to know that she did not deliberately do it. And it was like a thing she had to
Right.
do. I
Yeah,
think she's even done
exactly.
podcasts about her struggle with alopecia. So
Oh,
it's
really?
it's a thing
Oh,
that people
interesting.
know, is that she had that. And so I mean, I didn't really know, because I mean, she changes her hair so much, and for movie roles, people put wigs on and do things. So I never really got into, I never really
Yeah,
knew about it.
exactly.
But
I
then,
didn't know that
but it
either.
is something she's been talking about since like 2018, about her struggle with her hair and how she's
Ah,
not going to let
interesting.
it define her that she did it, but it's still a subject with her. She's like, well, I didn't choose that. It's nice to shave your head because you want to have the luxury of just wanting to do it and not doing it because you have to.
I always remember her having really short hair anyways, I thought.
She always
I mean,
did, but it
maybe
was
I'm
always,
wrong, but
yeah, she did. It was always very short and like a cute hairdo, but she's bald now. I like it is
mhm.
shaved
Okay.
like she went to the military, which
Bald.
most women don't do as a fashion statement. They do, like, if you're in the military, maybe
Yeah.
that's your thing, but most people walking around either don't just shave their
Don't have,
entire head.
yeah.
Britney Spears did it, but that was also, a meltdown thing.
Or associated with something, a meltdown, right?
Right.
Right. No, I agree. I think it's interesting. I know I've seen a few people. It's been, I don't know, and I don't ask. I just think it looks cool. Some people can carry a shaved head and it looks so cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just assume that it's a choice a lot of times, and if it's not a choice, maybe they have some hair loss and they're choosing to shave it just to make it look cool. So I
Right.
don't know. That's interesting though. It's but yeah, it sounds like there was some history there. It
Right.
sounds like it went a little deeper than just that
The
one
joke.
comment.
Well,
Because because I'm like thinking, okay, if I didn't have any hair and somebody compared me to GI Jane, I'd be like, yeah, that's my gig right there. I'm so I can't imagine that being like, but I didn't hear the whole joke either. So
right.
maybe there's
I
more
mean,
to the joke.
there wasn't more to the joke, but like I said, it's just because she's sensitive about the hair thing. Then her husband's there and feels
Yeah.
like he's got to defend her from somebody telling a joke. Then they've already got history where, they have marital issues. And so she's really going to look at him like, you're just going to let him talk about me like that. And, so it's a whole, probably more to what happened than that. But still, it just triggered like me to think about like hair. And that is a big thing with women and their hair. And we like to have choices over our hairdo. We don't want to dye our hair black because the color got screwed up. We don't want to, lose it by accident and have no control over getting it back. We don't want to, like, we don't want to be forced into a hair look. Like Tina Turner started wearing wigs, but that's because she had a bad perm one day. She didn't wear wigs because she wanted to. Like, yeah.
Dolly Parton always wore wigs.
Yeah.
She just always had wigs on. I remember her. She always had this amazingly big, like, I think of the South hair, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
I didn't realize it was a wig until I was older.
Yeah, and we've never seen her with her real hair because it's like a big giant like 18th century wig. It's a lot of hair, it's like nobody has that much hair.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because as many people as I know and coming in and out of the office, 90% of the time there are people, I have patients, like, they literally change their hair every time I see them, every 2 or 3 weeks. They've got like a totally different hairdo. And then I've got some that, they wear these extensions that I would never even know were extensions, so it's wild how many different things people are doing with their hair. They're not like their real hair anymore. So I think too, going back to like people having this like fear of losing their hair, but it's like, heck, there's so many people with so much, like, I don't want to use the word fake, but fake hair. Like, you can't compete with fake hair. You can't compete with like extensions that people are paying hundreds of dollars for. Like, my hair will never look like that unless I was to add something to it.
And that's the thing.
So
some people, some people are like that. They have hair like yours, but they want bigger, thicker hair, so they put pieces in. But a lot of, especially African American women, they'll put all these tight hairdos in, and then it'll actually pull their hair out, and then they have hair loss in a certain pattern. It pulls their hair out.
Yeah, because the braids are so tight on some, and I'm like, I know one of my patients, she was telling me that one day she had just had her hair braided, and she's like, it was just pulling all over. It's like, why do you get it done so tight? Well, it looks good, right?
Well, plus if you get it done loose, you lose a couple of weeks on it, because usually you get it tight, and as it grows, it loosens. But if you put it in loose, then in a week it's falling out, and you don't want to spend all that time and money. but it's
Got
called
it, got it, yeah.
traction alopecia, when women put things in their
Okay.
hair and then the hairdo pulls it out, and you can't, when you pull your hair out by the roots, it's hard for it to grow back. So then they permanently
Oh, yeah.
have spots in their hair that have been permanently affected.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
Well, and then,
Alopecia
of course, there's that. Yeah.
Alopecia can be autoimmune, but it can also be, traction alopecia because of a hairstyle.
Right, right.
And hers
Very
presumably is autoimmune because,
she's got
that's
something
what she
going
did,
on.
right? Something is going on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of autoimmune diseases, well, they're stressful and they can do that. So stress is a big thing with hair loss because, a lot of people, like, have you ever
absolutely.
in your programming, like with your either chiropractic care has made their hair grow back, or your nutritional thing has made their hair grow back? Like, have you ever noticed that or heard that?
Usually, yeah, the nutrition is, I think, more important than anything. Nutrition, detoxing, and of course, stress management, because stress, I think, is what I've seen with patients that have lost their hair in my practice. Like almost every one of them, when they've had hair loss, it's been associated with very stressful times in their lives. Not necessarily, well, not just medical stress times, right? But stress around family events going on, or emotional events, or stress around, and the stress could be a medical type of condition as well. But usually it's just very, very high levels of stress. I see that more than anything is when people start losing hair. And usually when they turn that around, and they, and supplementation, I think, is really key, because of course we're under a lot of stress. We use more nutrients, but that's when I would see it. Yeah, that's when I see it more than anything. And you see it more with the hormones as well, right?
Yeah, hormones, but I always tell them it's like, when you lose your hormones, like when you get 50 or 60, and of course, you naturally produce less estrogen and testosterone, your body also might use more vitamins in order to make up for that lack of hormones. So it's usually a combination between hormones and vitamins, but they're both happening at the same time. And that's why that's an age at which I'm going to see it. Like, and everyone's going to lose hair and not have as thick hair, but everyone's not going to have it to the point where they look a certain way. You know what I mean? Some people will just say, oh, like even me, I probably had twice as much hair when I was a kid, but I started with 3 heads of hair. Like, I had that much hair. And now I have a normal head of hair, and nobody's going to look at me and say, oh, look, your hair is thinning. But I know that my hair used to be like 3 times as thick, and now it's just, it's thick, but it's not, so we all have, our body doesn't support, without the right amount of hormone, you're not going to support triple hair. And so,
and my body and my hair has always been like, I have so little, my hair is baby fine. I don't have a lot of it. And so I think I was bald until I was 2. Yeah, it's just funny. Everybody's hair is so different.
Yeah, but you're a true blonde, and blondes, for whatever reason, blondes just don't make the same, like, not only do I have more hair follicles on my head, but I also, each piece of hair of mine is thicker. It's just darker hair grows thicker strands, and blonde hair grows fine, thin strands in general. So sometimes it's a follicle.
I know. I learned
thickness. Yeah.
I learned one time, I went and tried the, the eyelash extensions where they'll put them on individually. Yeah. And I was like, oh, and it looks so cool for about the first couple weeks. And then my eyelashes started pulling out because my hair is so fine that it couldn't support the weight of those long eyelashes. Yeah, so almost all my eyelashes fell out. It was horrible. Like, oh my goodness. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, that's another thing about alopecia is, like, some people lose, or even hormonal hair loss, some people will lose their eyebrows and their eyelashes as they age, and then that's a whole different thing. Now, of course, eyebrows and eyelashes are easier to replace or do something about than hair, but
Yeah. Well, I'm just surprised at how many people do extensions now. I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
And
everybody, like half.
Yes. And I look at people and I'm like, oh my gosh, they've got the best hair, just amazing hair. And then they're like, oh, extensions. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. Well, no wonder I can't compete with that. I don't, my hair has always been pretty thin and fine anyways, but Yeah, and I think that's a very, very popular right now. But I do wonder too, speaking of, you put the braids in really tight,
Right.
but these extensions, I'm not sure how they're attaching them, but I wonder if the weight of these extensions could also be kind of doing some of that traction
Yeah.
alopecia as well and causing problems too. So
Yeah. Well, no, because sometimes they sew them in, sometimes they braid them in, sometimes they glue them in, and sometimes they use tape.
yeah,
But just removing even if the extensions didn't cause too much weight on your hair, just the removal of the glue or the tape is going to pull some hair out then, or your hair might not have the glue and might break. So, and then you don't wash your hair as often sometimes because it'll disrupt them. So, it's just a lot of different things around the whole extension thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
True, yeah.
And so a lot of people already had hair loss and then did extensions to try to fill in the gaps, but then the extensions further disrupted the situation.
Right. So, and I think there's cycles with hair too, obviously, with seasons sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Summer.
And I'm not sure, I don't know.
Yeah, faster, summer.
Grow faster, right. And I know the lady that does my hair, she always mentions that. She's like, oh, it always grows faster, and in certain seasons, I think summer is typically when it is. But so that's kind of something to kind of consider too for people that it's like they are losing their hair maybe, but it might, and it's not replacing itself as fast in certain seasons. So I wonder if that has to do with the sun specifically, or
maybe it's vitamin D. Yeah, it's probably vitamin D because there's a lot of vitamin deficiencies that do that. I know folic acid.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there are certain vitamins that are good for hair growth. Like a lot of people say biotin, which is true, but folic acid is another B vitamin. So I would say like all B vitamins are important. Vitamin C reduces stress.
I've seen some different things about. There's a group that they use, instead of using like shampoo and conditioner, they use apple cider vinegar and baking soda instead of using the chemical shampoo conditioner, which I think is kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, and also the toxins in the shampoo. Like think about shampoo and all the crap that's in it, all the parabens, all the phthalates. Could that irritate your scalp? And then if your scalp is not healthy, will you grow hair? So have you ever tried the Young Living shampoo?
Right.
Have you tried the Young Living shampoo?
I've used their, is that the one that I used? I'm trying to remember which one it is.
Yeah, they have a vanilla one that has copaiba. They've got one that's got some peppermint in it.
So the thing with my hair, because I've only tried one. I think it was the one that's more supposedly for volume, but my hair is so baby fine that those oils just really weigh it down. And so that's something that I've got to be really careful with. But I have been using because I used to use like just plain vinegar, like once every few weeks, just to kind of rinse it out to detox my scalp from any kind of, anything that I might have been using. Right. But I did notice, I think it was too heavy for my hair, actually. Yeah. Which one do you typically use?
Usually I go get my hair done, so I don't do it at home very much.
Gotcha.
And then if I do wash my hair at home, I have all sorts of different random things that I use. But it's very rare that I do. Now, I do have a lot of conditioning stuff, and I just found this new thing. So they've got something called Genesis lotion. Young Living has something called Genesis lotion. And some lady was talking about how to use it as a hair mask. She goes, if I put that lotion on my hair for 15 minutes and then wash my hair, she's like, it just totally she's like, it's better than a hair mask. Basically, she's using the lotion because it's so non-toxic and pure, and it's got all this MSM in it and essential oils. And she's just like, my hair and scalp love it, and it just makes it. So I'm like, so that I do a lot of like, I put things on my hair before I go get it washed so that it's not so harsh when it gets washed. And I stopped putting like curling irons and flat irons in it. I just like let it air dry or blow dry, and so my hair's not in a beautiful style all the time, but it's like I do less things to it because so it won't break out.
Right.
But yeah,
I don't do a ton. I was gonna look up that lotion. That's kind of interesting. I think it'd be too heavy for my hair, though. I mean, because I used the oils. I'm like, oh, those were just too. too heavy.
But if you shampoo
what
them
happens
out,
for
maybe,
me,
if you vinegar them out or shampoo them out, it might not be such a big deal as
yeah,
if you're using just the shampoo and conditioner and then not really getting it out. It might, your hair isn't super curly, so
right.
it could affect you. But somebody with curly,
It's
frizzy
like,
hair would love it, whereas somebody with fine, thin hair has to be very light about what they put on their head. Like my hair loves to eat things. I can put anything on it. I put yogurt.
it'll just absorb it.
Exactly. I could pour bottles of oil on my hair and it'll just drink it and be like, now I'm dry again.
Okay, so what was this lotion called? Tell me again. So
Genesis. Gene.
Genesis.
Yeah, SIS. But you know, I was looking at the ingredients. Somebody just wrote a blog.
Interesting.
But I was looking at the ingredients, and all their lotions kind of have some of the ingredients you want, like the MSM and some of the oils that are in it, like the base of their Sensation lotion and the Genesis and a couple of others all have the same base, and then the oils are different. So I think a lot of them would work. Yeah. If you have any of their lotions that would work.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of nutrients, a lot of oils. Yeah, so that's the thing that I did with the, let me go back to that, but the hair care. I want to say it was the volumizing one. Let me see which one it was that I did.
And you putting like oil in your hair is probably not the same. Like me putting oil in my hair loves it. But you with oil in your hair, it would weigh you. Any oil is going to weigh you down.
It would be like plastered to my head. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Literally, I'm not kidding. It's like, oh my gosh, I need some body and some lift here. It's like, it's pretty funny. In the summertime, my hair looks so oily, so fast. It doesn't take like a day or two that it looks so oily. It's just funny. And it's not because I'm producing more oil. It's just because my hair is like so baby fine and flat. Well, so it doesn't like have that body.
Yeah, and the humidity sits on, and it's more humid in the summer, so that's gonna like stick your hair to your head too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, then I have friends that have like curly hair, and they've got just the opposite. They've got like this, it's like it like frizzes everywhere. So it's just the opposite of my thing with humidity. So while theirs is frizzing out, mine's like stuck to my head. It's like wild, like to, different people's hair with the weather. And so, yeah. But yeah, so I know I'm trying to think of things too, because I have a patient, she's had a lot of hair loss recently, and she's got a lot of autoimmune that she's dealing with. And just looking at different things that she's been researching, and she comes and asks me about different things as well. But she's using some of the red light therapy, which is interesting. There's some mixed reviews on that, but she got one of those to use. And then also that's what I was telling her about, like, I say detoxing your scalp in a way, using the apple cider vinegar and the baking soda versus a typical shampoo conditioner to really just kind of give your scalp a rest. There's some products. There's one that I found. Oh gosh, what was it called? It's got like a ton of vitamins in the spray, and it's got some fantastic reviews as well. It's not through Young Living, but there was something like that. I was, we're just looking at all these different possibilities that she could do externally as well while she's working on the internal stuff too.
Oh yeah.
So
one of the things, what's your favorite diet for hair loss? Like, do you ever help people eat different? Most people don't connect what they're eating to their hair growing. You know what I mean? They think they can eat whatever they want. Like I had a lady who was like, I'm losing so much weight. I'm only eating 700 calories a day. And then she did this for like 3 or 4 months. And then a couple of months later, she calls me, my hair's falling out. What should I do? Fix my hormones. And I'm like, girl, you're only eating 700 calories for months. I didn't direct you to do that. I specifically said, don't do that. But now you're going to have to actually eat, and because not getting enough protein, that's how you make your hormones. You don't make hormones if you don't have protein. Those amino acids are the building block of everything, and you can't deprive your body of building blocks for 3 or 4 months and then think, oh, why is my hair bad? It doesn't, you've starved it. You disappeared, but so did your hair. You didn't have enough nutrition.
I think, the key, I think, is the protein, getting enough quality protein, and then the nutrients. And so I think, just making sure they've got the nutrients, so it's not necessarily just about calories, because heaven forbid people go and like eat a bunch of pasta and bread and junk to get the calories in, because that's actually going to further deplete you of the nutrients that you actually need to have your body working right. And I always tell people too, you know, your hair on your head is like not a necessity to you living and surviving. And your body's first priority is living and surviving. And so if you're depleting yourself of nutrients, whether you're on like a really strict starvation type diet or and I say that because I know I'm also a big fan of fasting. I think fasting can be very effective for people. However, if they're really, really depleted of nutrients and they're not getting those nutrients, the hair is like, you don't need hair to live, right? You need those nutrients to focus on those vital processes, right? So anyways, it's interesting.
That's true. Yeah, her bigger problem, it's like even though it's not exactly about calories, if you're eating less than 1,000 calories, there's no way you're getting enough vitamins, especially if you're not supplementing. Some people like, oh, I get enough out of what I eat. I'm like, but not if you only eat 1,000 calories. There's no way you can get away with that without properly supplementing it. And even then you still can't really get enough protein. So I'm like, no, you know, the
key is
can't take your body out.
Protein's very important.
And then if you're only eating 1,000 calories, your stress response kicks in. So now your body's stressed, and stress will kick your hair out. So it's like you have two things. You're not eating enough protein, you're probably vitamin deficient, and then your stress is going to kick in, and there's no way you can support hair when your body's just like, let's stay alive because something's going on. And then but it doesn't say let's grow hair and be beautiful now while she's dying. It's not going to do that. It's gonna, you know,
exactly. And then if you have stress going on in your life, which a lot of people that are under a lot of stress in their life, whether it be emotional or stress or work stress or whatever, that tends to suppress, I say that a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of stress tend to eat less, or they choose like those high carbohydrate types of things, and that further causes you to go more deficient. So
they get fast fun food, like I'm so busy, let me just stop and eat McDonald's. I'm like, but that did nothing for your hair. Not that like I said, I have to add all that up for them. I'm like, if we're going to stop and do something quick, maybe we want another 5 minutes and go get a healthy sandwich that has tuna in it, and not McDonald's, and I love McDonald's. Like, not that I'm saying anything bad because it's a nasty food, but I'm like, but I know that if I eat a meal from McDonald's, I didn't like get any of my nutrition that I needed for the day. I got food and I wasn't hungry anymore, but I didn't like feed what needs to happen didn't happen.
Right. You're not getting the nutrient dense food. You're getting just calories.
Right.
Fillers is what I call those. They're fillers without any nutrient density. So
that is true. And then do you have a lot of people with male pattern baldness and female pattern baldness? I guess everybody, like all your old men, but you probably don't think about it. They probably don't even mention it to you as a problem because their whole family went bald and they're just it's time. So here we are.
Yeah, with the men, it's just kind of part of their routine, right? I say routine. It's part of it's just part of their life, right? Their journey.
They've accepted it because their dad and their brother.
Yeah, exactly. It's just they just kind of take it on as it's part of. Now, I think where it's harder is some of the younger guys. If they're like in their early 20s or 30s and they start to go bald that early, then it's a little bit more challenging because it's like their age is not correlated to the hair loss.
Right.
And so I have seen that, where they're a little bit more self-conscious of it. My ladies, it's interesting. The majority of my ladies that lose their hair, it's almost always around some very, very stressful time in their life. And that's what I've seen. It's almost always like they're going through a ton of stress. Their adrenals are just like shot. And, and then you add on to that, they maybe get a little, just like a flu or something simple, much less COVID or something like that. And then it's like, okay, it's like they push them way over the edge, and then they start losing, and then they're freaking out, and then it's like, oh, this one thing caused it. I'm like, no. It's been coming based on the levels of stress. So I think the key too is getting them kind of reset, not just their nutrition, but their mindset. Getting them back on track in the world of overwhelm. I guess getting that overwhelm off of them.
So your hypnosis helps with hair loss because it helps them deal with some of their background problems that they're not even
some of the
aware
stress.
of. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wouldn't even be a full hypnosis session. Sometimes it's just like the coaching, which we do every day, all
Right.
the
We do
time,
it every
right?
day.
Just
Yeah.
that coaching to
The
just to get them
awareness, because
through whatever
people,
they're dealing
yeah.
with.
Or like the
Mm-hmm.
first thing people do is like they'll start losing hair and I'll say, oh, what are you taking for that? And they all have biotin. They're like, I found biotin and
Yes.
it's not working. And I'm like, well, that's because your hair needs about 20 nutrients to grow. And even though biotin is a
Right.
very important nutrient that you've heard of, if you are still under stress or if you're still, not addressing your hormones, then the biotin alone can't just make hair grow when there's other things going on at the same time.
Well, and the other thing I see is a lot of people go grab just biotin.
Right.
And they
exactly.
take biotin at these really high doses, and
Yep.
they don't account for the other possibilities that they're deficient in, or the fact that if you take really high doses of biotin, it can throw you into other deficiencies, or it can keep you from absorbing other things properly. So that's another whole other part of the story, right? So
right. Exactly. Because iron is something I've read that iron helps with hair loss, and that's really not one of my top 5 things that I have people do. Now, I know if somebody's anemic and they have like anemia of chronic disease or just low blood levels, well, of course, correcting that can only help, because if you're anemic, with that, your body now thinks, oh, we have a health emergency, and beautiful hair isn't at the top of our priority list anymore. So I mean, but I think iron in and of itself is not like this big hair growth thing that everybody should just be on bottles of iron or even bottles of biotin. I usually say take a full spectrum hair growth vitamin, like that has 5 or 6 things in it, and that's actually always more helpful than a single supplement. Even if I love vitamin D and you don't want to be low in it, that's alone, it's not going to pull the whole boat. Neither is iron alone, and neither is biotin alone. You need even a prenatal vitamin. I was like, even if you just took a prenatal, at least it's got A, B, C, D, E, and some minerals. It's got stuff. So if you're low in some random thing, take that. So I'm like,
I know.
Do that.
Unless somebody's truly had a nutrition test assessment to see what exactly they're deficient in, I typically recommend more of a B complex than just individual standalone Bs. The only time I recommend standalone Bs is if I have their blood work in front of me and it says they're really low in this one specific B, then I'll do a therapeutic dose of that one specific B. Otherwise, I'm more of a fan of the complex.
Yeah, I agree. And also,
you just get more of a balance. But
right, no, I agree, because but even if they were low, like in B2, I might have them take extra B2, but I'd still make them take a B complex, because you don't want them to focus on B2, and then the next time you do the test, some of the other ones come back. So I'm like, don't let one go and then follow another one. You just need more of that one. For some reason, your body is different about this one, or there's a habit or a medication that might be depleting one. Well, then replace that as a standalone, but still take a B complex or a multi. If they're on a multi, then all the Bs are usually there.
Multis,
and I'm like, that's fine with me. Take a good multi and add that. So like I said, if somebody says my hair is falling out and they're not even on a multi, and I'm like, there's probably a deficiency going on somewhere.
Yes.
And what do you think about vitamin C and hair loss? Like, do you focus on that with people?
Vitamin C is not my first thing to recommend, like for hair loss. However, I mean, and usually in multis, you don't have the same higher doses of vitamin C. Vitamin C, trying to think. It's like I don't see vitamin C deficiency with hair loss as much as I would with some of the Bs.
But it's a stress. B and C are both stress vitamins, and of course, if somebody's stressed, they're going to be low. Even if I don't catch it in their blood work, I usually do think of it just because of stress. Vitamin C helps with stress. Vitamin C gets depleted in stress. Vitamin C blocks cortisol. So, I mean, a lot of times I think vitamin C, but it's kind of off the beaten path. Like, I think we should be aware of this, or if there's an autoimmune, well, now it's your immune system. And now I definitely want to make sure you're doing a standalone C and don't depend on it to be in your multi, because it's tiny amounts in your multi. It's just
exactly. It's never enough. And it's not like here, take C for hair loss necessarily. No. But that being said, no, C is like one of those, I don't know. I never can figure out which one's my most favorite. It depends on the day of the week, I think. So vitamin C, some days I'm like, you gotta have your vitamin C, take it, depending on what they're dealing with. And other days it's B's, and some days it's magnesium. It just, I think they're all important in some way, shape, or it's like I don't have a favorite vitamin child, right?
Right. No, and but even with like whenever you have a health struggle, I never look at like one thing. Oh, let's take this one vitamin and this one hormone. It's always like something is wrong and your body is not happy, and let's do as much as we can to make it happy. It's sort of like if somebody's unhappy in their marriage, it's never one thing. It's usually like a collection of things, and you have to address a collection of things, not one thing, because that's just never how it works.
Exactly.
And the same thing, by the time your body has a lot of ways to grow hair. Like young people don't have a great diet and they don't take a bunch of vitamins, but they have hair. Then we get older and there's usually a lot of stuff that's backed up on us. And if you're not, that's like, now it's going to be a challenge, but we can do it. I mean, I can't think of when I'm not successful at getting hair to either stop falling out or to actually grow. I have somebody who's got a whole family. Every woman in her family has like a female pattern baldness or alopecia. They don't even know what they have, but it's just their hair at a certain age, their hair just goes awry. And so, and I keep trying to focus on it with her. I'm like, do this and then add that, but she'll try one thing and then say that didn't work and then stop doing it. And then I'll say, try this. And then she'll do one thing at a time for a minute. And she's like, forget it. It's just the way it is. I'm like, no, it can be addressed. It's just it's a lot of work when you've got a genetic component, and I know you're in menopause, and I know there's got to be some vitamin things happening that we could optimize. Even if they're not low, they could be better, to help us. Well,
I think the other challenge is people like have such a, oh, take this pill and I get results. The challenge with hair and hair loss and hair regrowth is it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a process. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to, you're going to have to kind of wait for the results. They're not going to just kind of happen. And I think that's another challenge for it too, because people are just so used to having things happen quickly and wanting these really quick results by taking something and having the results right away.
Because even with hair, it's going to be like a 90-day thing. Yeah,
you got to wait for it to grow back. You got to wait for it to come back and kind of refill, the spaces, I guess. So
I know. I always tell people, they're like, well, how long should I take it before I notice a result? And I'm like, it's not like I'm going to, take something to make my hair grow and wake up tomorrow and be like, look, all my hair. It's like, it's a 90-day thing. It's a 90, your body's, some of it's resting and it's not going to start growing again for a month or two. And some of it's growing and it's going to fall out. I mean, it all goes through cycles and it takes you a while before you can interrupt the cycle. And so I'm like, no, anything you start for hair, you're really going to do for at least 90 days and take photos. Because you might you might not have a lion's mane at the end of 90 days, but if you take pictures, you'll be like, oh, my part's not as spread out, or my hairline's better, or there's just less hair on the floor.
Really good point.
Yeah.
It's a really good point right there to look at is pictures. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So they can see, because I know I have a patient, she's dealing with lymphedema right now, which has been interesting. And, and she's doing some things. And this last time she came in, I'm like, wow, I could see a definite difference, within the week. But her, she couldn't even see it. She didn't see it at all, which is understandable because she's with herself every day. It's like people that are working to lose weight, dropping pounds, and they don't notice the changes that are happening until it's like a lot. It's been a while, where if you see somebody and you only see them once every couple weeks, you can really see those differences. So that's a great idea. Pictures. That's a great idea.
Especially when it comes to hair. And I do that to people all the time, is like, because they'll say, oh no, a little bit, I'm not sure. I mean, because the easiest way is to say, like, if there's hair clogging your drain and you can tell that there's less hair falling out. So that's one thing, but to actually see it grow. Or I'll say, well, what does your hairdresser say? Because that's the person who's really in your head, like noticing spots that you don't notice. So I'm like, is your hairdresser impressed with how much better you're getting? Or did they say, oh my God, what happened over here with all these spots? So your hairdresser is paying attention. So a lot of them will say that, like, oh yeah, my nails, or even nails are they're connected. Like it's rare that your hair is terrible and your nails are fabulous. Usually they're both doing the same thing, right? So, and nails are easier to see because they grow faster. So it's easy for me to say, pay attention to your nails. see if they grow faster, then we know we've gotten some things on board and we're on the right track.
Some progress. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. That's a great idea though, pictures, like to keep up with it, to really kind of notice. Well, and I think too, to not obsess. I know it seems like people that have had hair challenges with hair, like they get really obsessive about it. Right. And then they're like constantly looking and constantly picking at it. And I know this one patient, it's like every time I look at her, she's like pulling on her hair and like pulling pieces, like individual strands out. See, it just comes right out. It just comes right out. And I'm like, well, stop doing that. I want to just say, stop, keep pulling. She's like, but they're already loose. And I'm like, yeah, but the more you're like pulling on it, the more you're going to notice it and see that. I'm like, just leave it alone. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But I did notice, it's like there is this almost obsession with hair. Once they start noticing it's falling out, they start getting really like focused on that. And then all they're focused on is that every time they are touching their hair, there's hair coming out, right. Which of course, with the whole subconscious, I always say, it's like, you focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. If you keep focused on every time you look at it, it's falling out, then you're going to keep noticing that. So
yeah. And then they're going to overstyle it. They're going to start like, oh, let me put this color and then curl it in this fashion. So now you can't see the bald spot, but then they've done all this extra stuff to their hair that's already in trouble. And then they've made it worse.
It's a process, right? That's what I can say for people in general.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So I always have to tell them, like, whatever you're doing, I mean, you're going to get it highlighted every 6 weeks and they're doing all this stuff. I'm like, stop going. You might have to just give it a break from the heat and the stuff and the chemicals and, pay attention to the shampoos and conditioners that you're using and make sure it's, throw avocados on your hair and wash it out. I mean, like, do something simple.
Do something different.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Different in a way that's supportive, and I know there was a couple times, I don't know where it was, I had read, and I was like, I'm just going to try that. But I put, a bunch of different essential oils on my hair, and I put some coconut oil, and I just let it sit for a few hours. I was working from home that day, and I'm like, that would just sounds like it feels good. So I'm going to do that today and let the oils and, everything good. And then I used my, the apple cider vinegar, and I did that little process, and it was just something different. It's not something I do on a regular basis. And then it was funny because I was talking to my girls in the Philippines, and she was telling me that she's like, oh yeah, she goes, I do that all the time.
Right.
But really common, to put oils and, in her hair, and just like, I don't know. So
no, like
different types of self-care in different parts of the world, right?
Oh, exactly. No, for years, I mean, since I was a kid, I've always had like flaky scalp and dry scalp. I've just always had a really dry scalp. So then one day, this was after I got into essential oils, I was like, let me make myself like a yogurt mask or something. And I had some yogurt that had been in the refrigerator for like ever, and I was afraid to eat it. But I was like, but you know what? I could put it on my hair and do like a hair mask. So I mixed it with some olive oil and put a couple of essential oils in it. And then I would like put it on my hair and then drive to the hairdresser. So I was like, I hope I don't get stopped on the way to the hairdresser because I look crazy. And then she would,
they're gonna think I smell like a salad.
I did. And so, but my hair, I stopped. I don't have dry hair anymore. I did that like 2 or 3 times before I went to see her. And after now it never happens again. But before, I would like wash my hair, she'd blow dry it, and there'd already be, there's nothing you could do about it. Not even dandruff shampoo. I mean, and it wasn't that big a problem, but it was still enough of little micro flakes where it's like, my scalp is always dry. There's never a day it's not dry.
What's going on?
But then I did that. I also stopped perming it. The perm, the chemicals in my scalp my hair was probably reacting to that. That's probably why. And then also I did that treatment.
Speaking of perms,
yeah.
I don't hear about people getting perms much anymore at all. Do you? Have you noticed that?
Well, no, now that they have weaves, they can tape curly hair in their head. They don't have to go sit under all that stuff.
All the chemicals. Yeah, good point. Because I was like, I don't even hear about people getting perms anymore. Do people even do that?
No, but they
do.
I
did. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
90s, I would get spiral perms to make my hair like as big and curly and fluffy and huge as I could.
I've never seen a picture of that. You have to send me a picture. I've never seen you with big old.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Poodle hair.
Let me see if I can find one.
Yeah.
No, huge poodle hair. Yeah, it was really big. But I've noticed, like, I don't see these really curly hair that's very common right now. It's like I rarely see that now. So,
Yeah. But now people are getting Brazilian blowouts. And so we're not getting a traditional perm, but we're doing things to control our hair, which still is, you know, straightening it and changing
like,
the curl
crazy
pattern.
straight.
Yeah. So, because even I don't do exactly the Brazilian blowout, but I do put things in my hair that make it where in the summer it doesn't all just poof out. You know,
Right.
I have to do some sort of oil treatment, or I do a lot more natural stuff. So my pattern has changed, but also hormones make your hair pattern change. Like if it used to be thick and curly, it could be a different texture. So there's a lot of things that change it.
Oh, I was gonna see if I could find that picture for you. I'll find it because I have one in here because I'm like, it is so big, my hair. But I've had my hair the same for so long now. It's just been like very much the same for a long time.
Now, have you ever done anything to make your hair grow? Like, do you have like most people are obsessed with making their, well, first of all, not fall out, but I know a lot about not making hair fall out because I'm always trying to grow hair. So all the vitamins I use to grow my hair, I use to make other people have less hair fall out. But I'm always, you know, like which oils grow my hair. I'm always putting stuff in my hair that makes it grow, and, you know, even though it doesn't ever grow really long.
I don't know. What are you? Yeah.
But they've studied some.
What are you using to
peppermint oil? Peppermint oil has been studied for your hair growth.
Okay.
Let me see. I have another one. I have a couple posted up here.
Oops. Okay, here's a
rosemary oil. Is another one that's been studied.
Okay, I'm gonna send you this picture because you're gonna laugh at like how big and curly. This is a really old picture. I was like maybe 14. So rosemary oil, peppermint oil. Okay.
I want to say cedar wood is another one. Let me look up cedar. Peppermint, I've seen a study. Rosemary, I've seen a study, and I think cedar wood. Let me see it.
Oh, that's cool. See, I haven't looked into that at all. Honestly, I haven't studied that, so that's kind of neat. That would be a good little blog post to put together.
Yeah,
like these are things that help your hair grow.
Oh yeah.
Use these for hair growth. That's a great idea. Great idea.
I've seen the blog because there's always people are always posting recipes of like hair growth oil or mermaid hair or whatever they call it. But yeah, there's a few oils that have been studied. Now, mostly they study in animals, but animals are so easy to shave and put stuff on them and see how fast their hair grows.
Right. That's a good point. Good point.
Oh yeah, so here we go. There's a study, this is 98. Randomized trial of aromatherapy, successful treatment for alopecia areata. So there's literally, they literally use essential oils for alopecia. And let me see which ones they used. They had a group that used thyme, rosemary, lavender, and cedarwood mixed together into their scalp every day, and it treated their alopecia areata.
Thyme, rosemary,
lavender, and cedarwood.
Lavender.
And the carrier oils they used were jojoba and grapeseed into their scalp daily. They made a little mixture and rubbed.
Send me that, and it worked, and they got results. Huh?
Yep. And people. This is one of the rare instances that I see people and not rats. People. I mean, like, yeah, people testing, not rat testing.
That's funny. Well, I mean, I would be open to that as long as, you know, I'm not a big fan of obviously the drugs, but I would be open to trying like, oh, let me just try some oils for a few days and see what happens and see if it makes a difference. So that would be something I would be totally open to. Where I guess that's why I'm like, I don't like people testing on animals at the same time. I don't know if I would want to be testing a bunch of random drugs on myself. There's a time and a place for that, right? It's kind of go between.
Speaking of drugs, do you ever tell people to use Rogaine?
I have not. So what I read about that is that once you start using it, you kind of have to keep using it. And I have not done the research on the side effects of using that because obviously it's absorbing into your scalp, right? So that is not something I would personally recommend. I know I've had patients whose dermatologists have recommended that. And what I've read, though, has been really clear that once you start using it, you kind of have to keep using it, because if you stop, your hair will fall out.
Yeah, well, you'll
Have
go
you heard
back
that?
to
I don't
your
know, right?
original. Yeah, it's not excessive hair fallout, but you will reset to what you know, sort of like if you work out, you'll lose weight, but if you stop working out, you'll gain weight. You won't necessarily weigh more than when you started, but you become who you were.
Okay.
And the same thing with
Okay, well, that's
dieting,
good to know,
you
'cause
know, no, so it doesn't mean you're going to go really bald, but it was stimulating your hair to grow. And then once you stop it, those follicles are like, oh, well, bye. She don't
Okay,
want us
yeah,
anymore. And
that's
so
what
we're
I was
out.
trying to look
Yeah.
at. I was like,
No, I looked that up. And some people use it.
so
I'm not opposed. If somebody comes in and says, oh, I'm trying this stuff, and they think it's working for them, as long as they're going to stay with it and be consistent, I don't have a problem with them using it. But usually, if they're coming to me and they've already tried it and given up, they're more likely to stick with
yeah,
an essential oil because it's doing other things anyway. It smells good. They like it. And Rogaine was sort of like, it was a pain. I mean, most people just find it inconvenient and it doesn't smell good and they don't always love it. But there's some who do. Like my brother had good success with it, but then he's like, oh, then I have to use it all the time and I'm not going to do that. So then he just shaved his head.
But the oils or the Rogaine?
No, the Rogaine. I mean, he's not going to be consistent with either, but stopping the oils,
right,
your hair will probably still revert to its original configuration. And that's just how things always work.
Yeah.
If I stop working out, I'll return to my original configuration. I'll be whatever I was going to be right now.
Right.
So
yeah, that's a good point. True. So, well, very interesting. So, yeah, send me that, if you don't mind, send me that oil. I'm gonna send that to my one patient that she is like obsessed right now with finding anything and everything to use for her hair loss issues that she's having. And, on top of the nutrition and the other changes that she's making, she's doing anyways, she's doing that, she's doing anything and everything. So I'm sending her everything she can do as natural as she can do it. So
exactly. Yeah, like I said, most people are pretty good at things they can get. I don't have to prescribe, and then they don't have to stop. Now, what do you think about thyroid? Like, if you think that their condition is related to thyroid, like, how do you support that? Like, clearly, if they have their thyroid removed, they've got to be on medication. But there are some people who have a sluggish thyroid, and now that could not. I'm like, even if it's not making your hair fall out, it's not great to have your thyroid on crutches and then think you're going to grow hair. You kind of want to find ways to support it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. And I think a lot of times, so thyroid, and that's correlated to a lot of people that have hair loss. And I think there are some natural thyroid supports that I do. Now, this is for people that have got kind of, I say subclinical, so they're not like having, where it's not like so out of whack, right? Because a lot of times I always tell people the thyroid to me tends to, not all the time, it tends to kind of swing like a pendulum. It's hyper, then it goes hypo, depending on stress levels, depending on a lot of different factors. And so just doing that thyroid support, a lot of times people are deficient in iodine and selenium. Those are very common deficiencies for people that have thyroid issues. And the other thing is, if they've got some like chronic inflammation in their body, a lot of those types of people also tend to have thyroid symptoms, not necessarily like full blown, but they'll have the symptoms of like a low thyroid. Sometimes it could be kind of like a subclinical, their numbers might be off, but they're not like so off that they're like way off the charts. I have seen that. I've seen some people that have, they have the thyroid symptoms of hypo or hyperthyroid without the numbers being off, and so, end up supporting that too, just because the thyroid symptoms are kind of consistent with them having those, the symptoms, right? The symptoms of what do you typically do with that?
Well, yeah, like I usually assess their iodine. Most people aren't eating enough iodine, and we had a whole talk about this before. Like I make sure that a multi is going to have at least a minimum amount of iodine in it, and it's usually going to have selenium, and it's going to have zinc, which are all three really important. So I'm like, if you're on that's what a lot of times I think that's why a prenatal kind of helps women with hair growth, because it stops 3 deficiencies that could be happening in any particular person. So a lot of times I'll either do that, or I'll have them take a standalone iodine supplement that's a higher dose, or I'll have them do like Young Living has that Thyromin that has iodine, and it has thyroid glandular powder, and it has something for adrenal support and something for pituitary support, and some essential oils.
Okay.
So that's a good comprehensive thyroid support
You know what?
vitamin.
I meant to try that one out too. I haven't tried their thyroid. I've got a couple of other companies, but that's a good one to
Transformation
remember.
has one too. I mean, but I don't know if this has iodine. Transformation has the thyroid powder in it, the glandular, but I can't say. I gotta look it up. But I like that one because it has the iodine that I know everyone's missing, and it's got the thyroid powder, and I like that combo.
Yep.
And it's got more than just the 150 micrograms. It's got like 500 micrograms per capsule. So, I mean, you got some extra.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Let's see. Okay, I'm adding that to try for next month. That was a good one. Any other new things that I need to? You're always on top of this.
Yeah, you need to get Genesis lotion.
Have you tried the Genesis
and the thyroid? Because like I said, I'm going to try the Genesis for the first time. I've tried their body wash. I've never done the shampoo, and I don't have the lotions. But now I'm going to try that one for my hair, not for my body, but for my hair. Yeah, let me think. So the thyroid support from Transformation has B6, zinc, and copper, which is another thing. And then it's got the L-tyrosine, which is important. I think Young Livings has the L-tyrosine also.
What is that's the Transformation?
Transformation has a thyroid complex, and they have the Masterzyme.
What's their zinc and copper? What is their zinc and copper ratio? And how much zinc and copper is in that?
They're both like 10 milligrams of zinc and 1 milligram of copper. So they're pretty much 100% of each. So they're the same. Yeah. They put so B6, zinc, and copper, and L-tyrosine, and then they have the thyroid concentrate, the pituitary concentrate, hypothalamus concentrate, and bladder rack. So I mean, I use that supplement for a long time because it's got some vitamin support and the thyroid, and then since the Thyromin had the iodine in it, I sometimes use that one if the person is not already on another source of iodine. And even if they are, I still might add to it because I think that iodine does a lot of things besides thyroid, and it's good to have plenty.
Right. No, that's good. Very good.
And plus, myrrh is an essential oil that's studied to support the thyroid, and it's myrrh is in the. Of course, Young Living always has essential oils in their supplements, so I like that. And plus, essential oils are anti-inflammatory. So if there's inflammation in your body, that's a problem. There you go. Peppermint. Remember, there's a study on peppermint and hair growth. Well, it's in the Thyromin.
That's a big thing too. The inflammation, getting the inflammation under control, because that can keep them from absorbing, keep them from. It can divert a lot of nutrients the wrong direction.
Yeah. And then L-tyrosine is an amino acid that's really important for thyroid function. And I think I've read some things about L-tyrosine and hair color. So it does a few things. So thyroid hair is big. So when people lose their eyebrows, that's like sometimes that's thyroid, especially their lateral eyebrows. There's thyroid.
Yep. That is very true. That is where it's kind of one of the easiest ways to determine or to see that, right? Is when they have usually the outer portion, they're losing a lot of the eyebrows there, and it's definitely a sign.
Yeah, definitely. The tyrosine is one of the things studied for hair graying. I'm always looking up gray hair. Like, not only do people have a problem with their hair falling out, they also have a problem with their hair color. But they can dye it so easy that people don't make a big deal of it. But I'm like, if I can put you on the right nutrients so that you're supporting color too, that's always fun to know.
Yeah.
Because I put people on stuff like when I start them on hormones and they start sleeping and then their hair is like darker, they're like, oh wow, look. I was like, yeah, cool.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
I noticed a huge difference in my fingernails. Like if I'm not consistent with vitamins, I notice my fingernails grow very consistently, very quickly. And so I noticed that if they're not growing like they normally do, that's my first sign usually. So, which is, just kind of something that I watch for. The other thing is my skin. I was going to say with the hair, collagen as well. That's another really, but of course, a lot of the nutrients are basis for that. But what's wild is a lot of these companies, they obviously they market the collagen as a way to like restore hair loss, which makes sense. But
amino acids. Remember we talked about amino acids and protein, and collagen is a way to get amino acids. And if your amino acids are low, that can affect your hair. So collagen doesn't like walk in and just say grow hair, but it gives you your resources that your body needs, that you don't want to be depleted in those resources. So definitely collagen will be good for that.
I've seen a lot of these people that do the before and after pictures of taking the collagen. Now, what I did notice that a lot of these collagen supplements, they don't just have collagen. They also obviously have a lot of other nutrients added to them as well. Is it just the collagen? Or
that's true, because some of them are like hair growth collagen and they put some extra vitamins in it. But I like the plain collagen, because every time they put a vitamin in it, it tastes funny to me, and then it's harder to mix with my stuff. I just get pure powdered collagen, the end. I do not want weird tastes or flavors or nothing else. I mean, I've got some, and then I'm like, ew. And then I don't take it. So I was like, and so I just, either make my own little bone broth. Like some people, you don't have to take collagen. You can, if you were good at bone broth every day, you'd, be doing something.
Right. I know that one Dr. Kellyanne, her whole program is based off of people having bone broth on a regular basis.
Exactly. Because it does so many things for your joints and, potentially your hair, just because you have the protein.
Exactly. Well, ma'am, I've got to jump on another call here. I've got a 3 set. So, but great topic. It's kind of cool. Like, interesting how we, it is, and the psychological components of people losing their hair. I mean, it's pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
As we can see, and obviously it was very affecting, somebody that's in the spotlight all the time under the public, like, constant judgment, right? To be affected to that degree. So it's important.
I know. And like I said, in the aging population is such a big, everybody has this problem to some degree. So it's like, you got to troubleshoot this hair thing with, and see, we went on for an hour about it. We probably could find a whole extra hour to do some other stuff, but anyway, I'll put some slides up for it. No, do you want me to use your fuzzy hair? Do you want me to put your fuzzy hair picture in here or no?
That's hilarious.
Yes, but I have it. I don't know if you.
I think it was like a Polaroid of a picture, and I found that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that crazy hair. It's what's funny is it's just as thin and fine now, except there it had so much. I mean, it was a spiral perms where they would do it like these really tight little kinky curly perm to give it body, and I would get up every morning and wash it and use, I don't even know what I would use in it, and this diffuser, and it was this big deal to get my hair to look like that every day. I'm like, just too much work. Oh my gosh. Now I wash it. Half the time it's just air drying unless I've got to be somewhere. And, it's funny. I don't do as much with my hair these days like I used to.
No, it's better. It's healthier for your hair. At this point, if you were doing more, you'd have less. So you got to just pick your battles. It's one of those pick your battle things.
Very true statement. So yeah, it's kind of funny.
Okay.
But if you want to throw that in there, it's kind of funny. You can throw a little blurb about
No, I have the picture, so it could always be like, you talk about your hair, I could have you up there with your curly perm.
I was like, this was before the chemical days, right? Where I was adding all kinds of crap to my hair all the time, right?
Yes, we've all evolved. Cool.
Yes, no kidding. Well, I'm glad that the straight, I guess it's a straight, but it seems like the less, the more straight look is in right now. Like, I've seen some people like board straight, like crazy straight hair. And they, like you said, what is it? The straightening
the Brazilian blowout type of thing. Yeah.
It's like so straight. I'm like, mine, I could do that any day. It doesn't take me much.
Oh yeah, I pay good money to get my hair like yours, but
yeah, isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. Yeah. Now, of course, like I said, in summertime, like right now, I love this time of the year because it's not as humid and my hair just like, it's like fluffy. I'm like, I've got body in my hair, but oh man, just in like a month or two, it's going to be another story. I'll be back to where I was. So, anyways.
Cool.
Well, cool. Well, interesting stuff today. Yeah. So I guess if people are dealing with hair stuff, they need to be calling us.
I know.
Getting their nutrition straight. Yeah.
Exactly.
You need to get it.
Nutrition and hormones.
They need to be checking in. Yeah.
Yep.
Adding some of these oil ideas and, obviously you've got your website. I've got my website to go and order those. What I think is really cool, Tamyra, is this on the Young Living stuff, how easy it is now for people to get like our discount.
Right.
Which I think is really cool because for the longest time I've been selling these things in my office and half the time I give people my cost. I'm just like, I don't push the oils as much, but now I'm like, look, just log in and you put one thing on auto ship or spend $100 and you get the exact same price that I get.
Right.
I can't, which I think is so awesome for people. I don't know about the upline people that maybe aren't making as much profit, but I'm like, whatever, it works for me. It's so much easier for me to send people here now too. So
yeah, just to spread the word because, you don't want people grabbing oils or stuff that, thinking that we're talking about one thing and then getting an inferior product and then it doesn't work when they're not using pure oils. When they study oils, they're really pure, they're not, adulterated. So yeah. Yeah.
No, I think that's really important as well. I agree. So, well, all right, ma'am. Well, have a great rest of your day. It's beautiful outside. I'm going to jump on this other call.
Okay.
I told her I'd be around 3.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump on this other call, but I will chat with you next week.
Okay, next week. Bye.
Okay. Thanks. Talk to you later. Okay, bye.